start now with a very nice conversation between Sonja Barlow and Constijn van Oranje. Constijn you might know as the envoy of TechLeap. He's taking care of the whole startup and scale-up ecosystem in the Dutch market. And Sonja Barlow is an entrepreneur from the UK, quite well known with her own radio show, podcast. I think you speak in a lot of places, so I think you should definitely know her. So that's why we think she should be on stage here. And I'm very much inviting you here to take a seat and looking forward to your conversation. Let's give him a big hand, everyone.
Cool. Okay, it's on. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a big LinkedIn connector, so please, you just find my name and you can be there. I'm going to invite my panel guest onto the stage, if that's okay. I know that we've swapped in terms of agenda, so I'm just going to give our team a minute just to go and rack more people up before we begin, if that's okay. Because we've had to swap based on timelines and agendas. We can take a seat. Oh.
We can fill this.
Yeah, we can fill this gap, absolutely. Can you sing?
Competing with coffee is difficult, but we'll manage.
Actually, the tea's outside, the coffee's inside.
Okay.
Just a FYI, I had to find that out. I'm from England. We drink a lot of tea, so I had to figure out where to get that. Also, just a side note before I begin, when I get super passionate about things, I tend to speak a little bit fast. If that happens, honestly, just put your hand up, and I'll rein it back a little bit, because sometimes you can't really understand the accent, and we want to have a really good conversation. So feel free to hand up and push it back. Are you good to go?
Yep.
Amazing. So as a point of introduction, my name is Sonja Barlow. Just a brief interview and overview about me. I graduated in 2015. I fell into the fintech space. I really want to say fell in, because no one really says, hey, go and work in fintech or go and work in tech. It's about aligning your skills. I absolutely loved it until I didn't love it. And a lot of reasons as to why I didn't love it comes back down to the lack of diversity, the lack of inclusion, and the lack of community that really was built. Some of those topics we're going to cover today. But in 2020, I got excited and I said, I'm going to start my own business. I know how to fix this space. I can bridge the skills gap. And in the last 2 years, myself, through my company, LMF Network, we've upskilled 20,000 people. We've launched Europe's largest mentoring program with a 98% success rate. We've designed and delivered over 20,000 hours of diversity and inclusion training, supporting businesses. I currently have a following over 50,000. I was LinkedIn's change maker in Europe and UK, as well as Top Voice. I have my own BBC radio show, a best-selling book, and my side hustle is presenting. So I really know my stuff, and I love the work I do. And that's what happens when you annoy women in the workspace, because they're going to go and smash their goals, and you're going to be like, wait, I wish they did this for me, because commercially it would have been more viable, right? And this is really the kind of demographic, the kind of conversation we're going to touch on. I want it to be fun. I want it to be interactive. Feel free to put your hand up and shout out questions, but it needs to be really value-led, because you're investing your time and your money to be here. So we need to leave with some real action points. And on that note, I'm going to proudly present Constantijn.
Yep.
I tried. We were practicing from TechLeap. And please empower you to introduce yourself before we kick off.
Yeah, so my name is Constijn van Oranje. I lead TechLeap. This is because I think I really believe in the Netherlands as a really strong place for tech, and that there's much more potential than actually comes out. So I've been working on this for the last 6 years, first through Startup Delta, and then through TechLeap, and before that, Startup Fest Europe. So and that's my drive, and we've been moving from trying to identify barriers in the ecosystem to and working to address those, to building a community of entrepreneurs, because we believe that in the end entrepreneurs are the best suited to help each other. So the more we can make this a self-sustained system, because the communities of entrepreneurs are systems as well, the stronger it will get. And now we're moving more from supporting fintech, SaaS, and those kind of companies to deep tech companies, which have a whole different set of complications, but also a massive potential to make impact.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to touch on entrepreneurship and community in just a second, but before that, I'd love to ask you, we're here in person post-COVID pandemic. Of course, there's still some pandemic going on, but we are back in person, we're doing the work. How do you think tech and innovation has changed given the pandemic? And what have some of the kind of positives been?
Yeah, well, I think there's continuous change. So COVID was one change. I mean, it accelerated a lot of the online stuff, and there were many business models that were very that were supported by COVID and were very helpful in fighting COVID and dealing with the fallout. Of course, we saw a bit of a backlash. There's been in tech. I don't think we need to kind of elaborate on that, for we did that quite a lot this week already. But I truly believe that some of the main underlying trends and transformative trends in food, energy, logistics, also some key technologies that are kind of all now coming together and producing really powerful outputs, that those are still valid and going forward. So I foresee a period of volatility because of obviously the supply chain problems and political instabilities and of course the whole financial markets as they're operating currently. But on the whole, pretty positive going forward.
I definitely think volatility brings its own innovation. It disrupts the ecosystem, and we've seen some great businesses come out of this change. In TechLeap, one of the programs that you run are very much for scale-ups, for founders, for entrepreneurs. What are some of the lessons that founders have really learned throughout this journey and that you can share with us? Not just starting a business, but often it's the scaling the business which is the most difficult.
Yeah, so we run this program to support entrepreneurs, but also to learn much more about what's happening in that scaling phase. And there's a whole set of issues, basically. That's why that period is so interesting, because it really defines a company. Is it going to go into kind of this kind of mode, or are you really going to hit this more exponential curve? And it's the range of hiring the right people, having the right culture, and we might come back to that. So companies that have been basically, to put it simply, too white, too masculine, and too only highly educated people and only speaking Dutch, it's kind of not the best environment to attract the best international talent. So you see companies that have made that mistake early on to stay very much within their comfort zone. Then there's a whole piece around investment. So obviously depending a bit on the sector, but when do you get a foreign investor on board or a Dutch investor? What kind of investor? Some companies have gone with private equity too early and have got stalled because of that. Others have chosen venture capital, but basically at the wrong valuation and stalled. Others did a really good job in that. So there's a whole set of questions around that. Our companies typically have already solved most of that. I mean, they've done rounds of 10 million and beyond, mostly. But in some sectors that we're also covering, that's not the case yet. Like in health tech, it's a much more difficult environment to invest in. Then there is the whole internationalization. When do you go abroad? How do you start international from the start? Which country do you go to? How vested do you need to be as a founder? Do you need to actually go to the country and establish yourself there for a time to make sure that the culture gets conveyed?
I mean, there's a lot of questions when it comes to starting and running a business.
Yes, and this is actually probably one of the most important findings. It's the discipline that is required from a founder to grow a business through the scaling period, and then and the capabilities that you need to develop that you didn't know you had in you, or but that's something that you can need you can need advice. Advice is out there, and that's what we try to mobilize. And advice is mostly among other entrepreneurs. So bringing these people in a community where they find people that have done it before and that maybe are just 1 or 2 years ahead of them, not that much, not kind of the icons. But,
the stories you can't attain. As a founder who's actually looking to scale her business, I have to admit that I agree with everything you're saying. I woke up this morning and I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know how to build the capabilities. I'm not sure that I have all the skill sets within me. And you start to have that doubt, and that's where you do look for community advisors, sponsors, mentors, It's just to say, you know what, it's okay, because everyone goes through that journey, and you have to overcome those hurdles. The topic, or I guess the key word that we've touched on quite a lot, is community. And of course, I did an introduction where I interview, and I'm a podcast host, but so are you. And I watched your interview online with LinkedIn's co-founder, Reid Hoffman, where you spoke about community, where you thought about the ecosystem. And most importantly, you discussed what was important for that movement. What I would say is maybe the answers were a little bit diplomatic and could have been slightly deeper. But when you're running a massive business like LinkedIn, I think you have to be media trained, right, to say the least, and know what's coming up. So when we say the term community, what does that really mean to you? And from that discussion, how can we really foster communities when, touching on what you've mentioned before, maybe the talent isn't there, maybe the culture isn't there, maybe we don't have the capabilities. And fundamentally, it comes down to the 3 C's, right? The confidence, the capabilities, and the community.
Yeah, I think, well, Brad Felt in his book about startup communities actually described it pretty neatly. You have the community of founders is at the core, but it's a system as well. And then you have, the whole thing is an ecosystem, but it goes, the end is is society, you have the economy, and you have basically different concentric circles. And, but at the core is the community of entrepreneurs. And that actually, the feedback we are getting is it's very precise, you know. So it's not. So we wanted to also grow the group with CXOs, you know, people that have a lot of experience. But the founders are looking for people that actually share the pain and that have the sleepless nights, and that's the kind of topics they want to talk about. So they really say, well, we want to talk to people that are like us, in the similar phase as us, maybe a little bit ahead, and we want to learn from each other. And that's, I think, what is the strongest in the community. So you have to keep looking at things that bind the community, but also the things that push them a bit further. So, for instance, we're trying to do this for the Netherlands. So the communities that exist are maybe in Amsterdam and Rotterdam and Groningen. You know, they all have their little communities, and it might be a SaaS community or a fintech community. But actually, SaaS and fintech obviously learn a lot from each other. But also, a medtech company can learn a lot about the kind of the entrepreneurial challenges that a leader in fintech has, that has gone much faster, has much more access to venture capital and experience. So we're trying to kind of curate that community so that it's relevant for all of the founders. But it's important that they are actually founders, or at least behave as them.
I mean, communities is such a buzzword, right? It was actually one of the most trending words in 2020 and 2021, according to Google. Amongst that, the idea of community, I think there's a difference between social following and community. So community, from what I'm hearing you say, is really about those foundership, those relationships that you're building, that you're bringing together, and you're exchanging views and learning from one another. But it's damn expensive to create and fund a community. Some people don't want to pay to play. Others want to kind of grasp that value. And generally, I do see a commercialization of communities. But going back to Techly, you are government funded. How does that work in the business model, the work that you're doing, and also the communities that you're building moving forward? Will you be asking them to pay? Do you think that's a kind of model that generally companies should be using? You said okay, I could ask you difficult questions. No.
Because that's actually the point where we are now. So we're publicly funded, and we have enough money, so it's pretty easy. We can organize events. We can't support others, but we can have enough means to do whatever we want. You know, we can start a podcast, or we can hire the studio. Every time that's like 10,000, 15,000, all the little amounts that most people then find the barrier not to do things. So that's a luxury position, and we're actually looking to, because the government doesn't really like what they like what we're doing, but they think they're very uncomfortable with us supporting companies in that way, and so we kind of have this. We chose the form of an experiment, so these companies are giving us a lot of feedback, and it helps us make better policies. So, but in fact, this is something that should be probably organized and funded privately. But we have realized that there's a problem in the Netherlands. People don't reach out that much. People don't actually look for that community and are pretty transactional. So, and are used to getting everything for free. So how do you start something that people actually start paying? So we're actually right at that point. So we might, I don't know how expensive you are, but we might hire you. But we are looking now to engage a number of founders, and really with that question, like, what is the proposition that people would be willing to pay for? Maybe first through philanthropy, but also to get a paying community. And it's a very delicate balance, because what they like in TechLeap is that we don't commercialize and that we are a neutral, objective player. So, and there's quite a dislike of commercialization of these communities. So, how to do it in a way that it's kind of fair value, fair value for the product and the service we're providing, and not doubling what's already going on in the market, and still, still staying objective. And so we're in a luxury position now that the government still pays for this. We don't know exactly what's going to happen going forward, but we think the community should be strong enough, and we can offer, and if you look at our NPS scores of our programs, I think there is enough demand for what we're doing, so we're quite positive and hopeful that we can take this forward, whatever the government decides.
Thank you also for that very honest answer, right? I also want to say that if you're a business person, if you're companies, if you're looking to build communities or work with communities within your business, your organization, be that for talent or hiring or engagement or events like this, you need to have an investment budget. You need to be able to add value. There needs to be a clear strategy plan, as there would be with anything. Communities aren't just there for nice to haves. They're there to add value. They're there to exchange services. They should be considered like a business, even if there's not a commercial monetary point on top of that, or a kind of access point that you have to pay for.
And bitterballen and beer. Sorry. That's Dutch community. So if you don't have if you know bitterballen and beer,
let's touch on that, actually. Let's touch on that. So beer, very good one, right? Let's touch on that slightly. It can be alcohol-free, but what about the talent that isn't comfortable in this spaces, but they want to engage, they want to enter? So you made a great point earlier about diversity inclusion. I saw all the heads nod when that question came up, when the topic came up. You wanted that discussion. The reality is that companies want to be inclusive, they want to be diverse, but potentially they're not changing things in the way that they should. The pace of change or innovation isn't fast enough, and we're going back to what we already know. So I'm not saying you shouldn't drink alcohol, right? That's not the point. But I am saying that not everything has to revolve around this one thing that brings a lot of us together. And of course, it's friendly banter. But you also spoke about culture. Now, the question is, are you hiring for culture? Are you hiring for skills? Are you hiring so someone can come in and disrupt your business and say, hey, wait, actually, this is a gap that I can see, and this is how it's going to support you commercially? And I know before the session, we were talking about diversity inclusion, and just making sure that we can diversify the ecosystem. But again, we look around in this beautiful event, and I'm not going to pretend like we're not thinking, hey, actually, we've probably seen these faces before, or it's kind of the same or similar faces that show up. Where's maybe the other individuals that should be here? What do you think we can do to really speed up the change when it comes to the innovation, the ecosystem, and the inclusion in the space, versus just sit on another panel and have the same discussion and go away with the same notes and put it on LinkedIn and be like, here's what I learned today, but not actually execute much of that in the workspace?
Whoa. That was that a question, or no? So I think just as an observation, if a room like this is not diverse, it's a sign of maturity or lack of maturity of an ecosystem or of a community, because we know that that all of the successful tech companies are completely international and will have to be international, notwithstanding what's going on in your office here. But if you have a completely Dutch office here, it's very hard to be very attractive to your colleagues that are in Silicon Valley or in London or in other places, or India. So it's important. And what we found is that it is actually a very strategic issue. And so having an inclusive culture, being able to attract that talent is really strategic. And if you don't get it right, you're basically, you will feel it in your bottom line or in your growth trajectory. So before we looked at it, the easiest part is gender or sex. Sex is still pretty binary, and you can measure for it, whereas ethnicity in some countries, especially in Europe, you can't. So to know, at least to look at it from that perspective, and then we took the venture capital angle, because men invest in men, and we saw that there are very low numbers of investment in female-led teams. So that was actually our approach, and we tried, well, we set up a fund right to create more diversity in the venture capital system. That kind of helped. We saw that some have gone really fast forward, and they've been very successful in actually finding teams to invest in and diversifying their portfolio. There's been more activity in actually the funds themselves, hiring more women and people of color. But we also saw that there were laggards and people saying, okay, this is now, we've done this now, and we kind of integrated it, and okay, now we go back to our business, and COVID didn't really help much there. So we've seen that it doesn't, it still is something that you need to keep communicating about. And for myself, I've been involved in this for a while. It started basically with a conversation. What's the easiest thing we do? We say, okay, I will never be on a fully male panel anymore. It's a simple gesture, but it kind of it radiates. And then from that moment on, I've just been learning every single day. And because if you basically, I think the mindset should be that you don't know, but there's just massive amounts of experience and really interesting knowledge, insight out there. And if you have a questioning, kind of curious mindset, and you keep asking, then every person, it doesn't matter, if they're from color, if they are LGBTQ, if they are white, straight, everything, they all will have a lot behind the facade and a lot to bring to the business, to your community, and actually it's being interested in your people makes you more interested in your customers, makes you more interested in your suppliers, makes you able to build relationships that go much further than they would otherwise do. So I think it's more than a sanity check. It really should be something that we're integrating in our culture, and I'm trying to do that in my team. We found that we had more women than men, so we felt, hey, we're in tech, we've got more women than men, but then we saw that actually these women all looked pretty much the same. They were all kind of go-getting, very practical, and we said, well, wait, and they're all, it was for us easier to find that kind of woman from Australia than to find someone from a Turkish background, a man from Turkish background from Rotterdam. So that did help us kind of think about, okay, what is that? What is the bias that we have in our system, in our HR? And we started looking from how to address that. And there are many ways to do that. And you got people like you that can support.
Absolutely. And what I'm really hearing you say is think of it like a strategy. Go back, observe what you have, document it, audit it, then make recommendations, bring in the right people. Some stats just to throw at you, right? If you invest in women, just from a kind of a standard women, male, binary perspective, you can bring 3 trillion into your economy. 50% of women feel like they need mentors to help them enter or progress in the workspace versus 5% of men, so you can bring mentoring programs. We as a company run career programs, so it's where you build their confidence, not just technical skills, but soft skills. The 3 reasons as to why the lack of diversity might exist is the lack of community, which we've discussed, the lack of confidence, and the lack of career knowledge. A really simple example in tech, there's account managers, but when you're coming out of university, that sounds like you're going into accounting, because we haven't quite explained what those terms, what those definitions mean. And like you've mentioned, you're going into this space, make sure, maybe it's a tally where we're like, for every ticket you get, you have to bring someone along with you that doesn't look like you, that doesn't feel like you. Maybe it's a student, maybe it's a young professional, maybe it's someone who's new in your business, but you bring them into these spaces, you open the doors, you sponsor, you become that ally. And I know that you've spoken about that before this session, is that allyship is a doing word, and it makes such a big difference. I'm mindful of time, and it's clocking down at me, so I'm going to ask you just some random questions to start kind of ending the session. What is a book you're reading?
It was a book. I'm bad with names. It's called The Garden of Finzi Constini. But it's an Italian novel. I just read that. Really impressive book. So it's not a business book. I am supposed to read Amp It Up from Frank Slootman, also because we are seriously amping up our organization. We still have 10 months left, so we got our kind of roadmap laid out for us. So that would be the next book that I would read.
And my final question, I'd love to ask you all to ask the people that you're sitting next to, the colleagues that you've come with, this same question and keep them accountable. What is the one thing that we can keep you accountable on when it comes to community, culture, building confidence? And you know, there's like 500 people in this space. So we can check up on you and say, you said this on stage, that you were going to make that difference in a year. What can that be? It could be something small. So I can check on you over the next 6-12 months and just say, hey, you made that statement. Let's see how you're going with that.
Well, what I want to do in the next year is to see if we can align the government around and an organization like ours or something, whatever that may be, to turn the Netherlands into a kind of a deep tech engine and make sure that the universities, communities, also capital will come together to much more effectively produce deep tech startups and scale-ups. So I don't know if we're going to succeed, but that's what I'm aiming for, and we'll see what happens.
You have to have a North Star. How can people keep in touch with you, and where can they connect with you?
LinkedIn is easy. You can connect through Twitter or I guess email as well. I do respond usually to most of the communication I get, but LinkedIn is probably the easiest.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone who joined us. Thank you. You can clap if you want. It's fine.
Yes.
We'll take the claps.
Let's give Sonia and Constant a big hand indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do connect with us online. Ask the questions. I'm here all day presenting, doing interviews, and just having kind of random discussions. So reach out. Do reach out to both of us, and have a great rest of your experience on Friday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we can leave it. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Have a good flight, Constantine. I understand indeed you have to take off very, very soon. But thanks indeed also for your speaking out your ambition, because I believe that's definitely something that we'll collaborate on very happily going forward between TechLeap and Holland Fintech. So with that said, we're going to move a couple of chairs here. And finally, I've announced it already before, but he's completely warmed up. Well, I hope he's not cooled down too much already in the meanwhile while he was sitting here. But we're very much looking forward to hearing from Bas Winkel. He's the head of fintech at bol.com, big e-commerce platform in the Netherlands, basically making sure that Amazon is actually having a pretty hard time actually gaining market share. But also very much see that e-commerce players are moving into fintech. So I'm curious to hear more from Bas. What's happening on his end? Let's give him a big hand, everyone.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, very glad to be here and talk a bit about fintech at bol.com. My name is Bas. I'm the product director of fintech at bol.com. Going to talk a bit to you about what fintech is at bol.com. I've been working at the company for 18 years now, so I've been through the rise of e-commerce in the zeros and the rise of the platforms in the decade after that. So glad to be here and talk a bit to you about it. I'm going to dive a bit deeper into the company, fintech at bol.com, talk a bit about our customers, and I'm going to ask you 2 questions, so be ready to use the Mentimeter and answer some stuff on the polls that I'm going to throw at you. And I'm going to leave you at the end with 3 things to remember. All right. So a little bit about the company. So we started out in '98 as an e-commerce website selling books. And today we are a platform mostly run via third-party sellers, offering a lot of millions of products, 41 million rising each day. 13 million customers active on our website and our app, 152 million visits a month, and over 50,000 sellers that are active on our platform selling products to our customers. And the rise of e-commerce and the rise of platforms is a journey that we went through very close by. So we started, like I said, in '98 as an online bookstore and offering a wide variety of items. And we grew in 2007, expanding that offering to second-hand books. and discovered later on that if we wanted to expand even more in our offerings, it was not sufficient to connect a supplier to our own website to be able to sell these goods. A much faster way was to connect third-party sellers offering their items via our platform for us to focus on the core activities that we're good at. So we did that in 2011, opened up our website to third-party sellers offering new items on our site, and that really transformed our business, because currently, this day and time, we have around 70% of our top line is being generated by third-party sellers, and we are a retail tech platform, as we call it. And what is tech at bol.com? So if you look at our business, we have of course, the customer-facing business on the left, offering all these items and making sure that people can buy the things they need. And on the right side, you see the opening for third-party sellers to be able to sell via our platform. And our tech is in the middle, and of course, fintech is in the heart of our business. On the left side, you have domains like buying and customer service, and on the selling side, assortment and selling, making sure that all the tools are made for people to sell their goods via our platform. And the more enabling domains in the middle, like logistics and all other stuff that needs to be done to run the business. And fintech is one of them. And what we do is some kind of a tagline or a why, is that first and foremost, we responsibly handle the customers and the platform users' money while being a front runner in financial services. So always start with safely and responsibly handle the platform's money, because that's something that users first and foremost expect from us. But we also want to be extremely convenient in user experience, and talk a bit about that later on. So when I talk about domains and how tech is organized, we have around 1,500 people working in tech within our company, all in these different domains that I showed you. And these domains are divided in several products, so parts of the business that need further development and need running in the business. And fintech is made up of 4 of these products. So we have the payments product that focuses on offering payment methods to our customers. Payment after delivery is one of them. The fraud and risk product focusing on offering these payment methods with the least amount of risk for us as a company. Invoicing, the name says it, I think, invoicing all users with the stuff they bought or the services they collected from us. And collection focuses on all invoices that are not paid and making sure that they eventually will be paid via debt collection or even the bailiff when applicable. So that's a whole chain of activities. Our definition of fintech, I realize these definitions, they vary a lot across the space, but this is our definition. And when I talk about users or customers, in our definition, that's a wide variety. You know, normally when you talk about customers, you mean the end customer buying stuff at our platform. From our perspective, customers is a wide variety of different users. So you have, of course, our internal use of our processes, the accounts department, our account managers, like Sonia said. The buyers, the people actively buying stuff at our platform. Retailers that are active selling on our platform. We have people not really active on our platform, either selling or buying, but advertising on our platform via our advertising business model. We have ecosystem partners connecting to us via product APIs and opening up to the further world around us. And of course, there are authorities and collecting agencies that need connecting as well. So then we come to the first question that I need you to pull up your Mentimeter with a QR code. You can scan this and join me. And the question is, what do you think these customers, this wide variety of users, find most important about our fintech products? I'm really curious of what you find. Can we pull up the answers on the screen, or do you need to? Okay, sorry. we're working on to get the answers on screen. I'm really curious about what you think. Is it working or should I? It's coming up. A lot of tension building up in the room. Right? This is an experiment, right? This is indeed a good exercise for the second question I'm going to ask you later on. or just shout, yeah, just shout. It's a good idea. What do you think these customers find most important about our products? Just shout out. Good idea. Integration, yeah. Ease of use. Security. Ah, here we go. Security, reliability, trust, instant payouts, fast payments, different payment options. Yeah. Safety. Yeah. Cool, cool. Yeah, okay. Really good answer. So if we can go back to the presentation, then I can continue, because I was really curious if your thoughts were in line with the way we look at it. Yeah. So first and foremost, customers are expecting stuff to work, right? No customer or people buying at our platform, they don't usually call us telling us, wow, this is really, really cool the way I paid at bol.com. It's not how it works, right? People expect it to work, and work efficiently, and work with the least amount of boundaries possible. And all these other users, they also focus mostly on reliability, on scalability and ease of use. Scalability in terms of product APIs and scaling volume, and ease of use in the least amount of barriers available to making a payment or receiving a payment. And on the selling side of the business, it's not only about receiving money, it's also being able to connect to our platform and downloading, for instance, all your different sales that you made in order to be able to do the accounting yourselves. And it's really important. So I'm really talking about this security and these high standards that we have on reliability. And it's really important because if these processes fail to work, or if they are negatively affected, then we have serious risk, not only for our users, but also for us as a company as well. Negative effects are in different areas of the business, right? So you have direct financial losses, of course, like orders cannot be completed, or there's something needed to cover financial fraud, or we have to do write-offs because stuff didn't work for our customers, which costs direct money. But also reputation damage in the news when you are hit by some kind of a fraud scam, or well, something happening. Then yeah, we lose trust of our users, which is not something that is beneficiary for us in the long run. And of course, there are other negative effects as well, like customers abandoning baskets, becoming disloyal, distrusting the platform, and it also limits us with innovation as well, having much of these kind of disruptions. So we do focus a lot on security, reliability, and all these dull things that you might find not really interesting. But yeah, we take pride in dullness, I always say. But of course, next to the basics, being trustworthy and security, of course, we also look at customer demand and the way users look at our platform and how they want to interact with us. And there are three key trends in the customer demands that I wanted to share with you. So we, first and foremost, people active on our platform, they want personalized fintech services. What the heck is that? So what we mean with that is that we come from a period in time where it was a one-size-fits-all scaling business, right? So we wanted, and we're not the only one, but it's all about a volume game, getting as most customers on your platform, and they are all serviced in the same way. We're behind that era right now. So people want personalized offerings, personalized processes, and personalized fintech as well. With low friction, I call it embedded, but what it means is that when you have some kind of payment offering, you want it active on the point that you're at in the platform at that moment in time. The easiest example, for instance, is a subscription model with reading digital books via our Kobo system. Partnership with Kobo. You don't really recognize that you have some kind of subscription process going on behind the screens, but we are there when it's needed. And buy now, pay later, really a buzzword in the market. We have been offering buy now, pay later since '98. It's the reason why we exist, I always say. At the time, there were no online payment methods at all available. But yeah, we have grown that, and almost 40% of our customers use buy now, pay later to buy goods at our platform. And that also is on the verge of getting more personalized in the whole journey, from not only buying, but also the follow-up processes. And the ecosystem that plays a key role in supporting us now and in the future. There are different elements in that, and when I talked about earlier, what I talked about earlier is that we have a huge tech community working on all these different types of areas within the company. It may seem a bit odd that I'm standing on stage here and shouting out that the industry and the ecosystem needs to step up in order to make offerings to customers even better, or users even better. It's in different areas like payment processing. A recent innovation called debit card tokenization, you may have heard of it, which really makes these boundaries or these payment processes even easier for users. Also expanding offerings to our partners. We have a simple payout system to partners, but of course they always want their money faster. Maybe there are lending opportunities or stuff like that can be available. And it's also supported with all kinds of data models and data services that we can provide. I see the time's up, so I'm going to skip the next one. I'm really interested in what you think are key innovation areas for fintech at bol.com, but you can drop me a line later on, or via LinkedIn, or.
We also do the Menti and send you the results later.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And I would like to talk to you actually about this. So I think I'm also happy to give you some answers already to chew on.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you scan the QR and put in your answers, then maybe I'll put
if I may, because I
sure.
think it's actually really interesting, Bas. Because actually I was just, one of my big ambitions always as an entrepreneur myself is actually I just want to be taken care of, right, with the tools that I get. And so actually I just want, for example, if I would actually do my business on bol.com, why can't I just get my P&L from bol.com at the end of the year?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or so basically be completely facilitated in that. Is that also how far your ambition reaches?
Yeah, so it's always difficult in these topics to talk in timelines, but that is the North Star, yes. So, and of course that requires a lot of innovation and a lot of investment in time to be able to get there. But our aim is to mostly, to make ease of use as most as possible to all users. And indeed, this is one of the topics that we're looking at. Yeah.
But I think you're then really taking a role like an orchestrator, right? So you're not going to build all these payment engine, lending engines, accounting, bookkeeping systems, and so on.
Yeah.
So how do you see that, like from an ecosystem perspective? How do you see collaboration there?
Yeah. So yeah, one of the reasons why I'm here. So we need the whole space to participate and to standardize connections between different types of parts of the business and connect them to really help users in all the areas that they're active in. So one concrete example is business sellers. They find it difficult to put up a VAT invoice to customers. Number one complaint from business sellers. And of course, we can make some kind of process or thing to generate VAT invoices. But why not have a third party, which is in the market currently already, offering these type of services to our sellers? It means that we don't have to actively build these types of services, and it really helps the community to grow. So yeah.
I really like that concept. And I think that's also where I truly believe that if you, it's not the individual financial services per se, but if you can able to bring them together and solve a customer issue, you can create such economic power and value. I think that's really beneficial. That's also why I think getting together like this and collaborate within the industry as well as outside the industry, I think that's a really big benefit.
Really important. Yeah. So quick look at the system job. Security, supply chain. Pay installments or with crypto? With crypto, yeah. That's way ahead, I guess. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to close off. Can I get back to the presentation? I'm going to leave you with 3 things to remember, and then I'm ready. Right, so first and foremost, high expectations regarding reliability and security, scalability and ease of use. And when there's stuff going wrong in the ecosystem, there's an immediate risk of negative issues and reputation damage. And like Don already discussed, the ecosystem plays a key role in supporting us to address the customer demand and play a real fine role in differentiating services to help our users. Thank you.
Thank you, Bas. Yeah, very nice talk. So thanks for coming here to share. And I think inspirational and definitely also the call for collaboration, I think is well heard here. So thanks again. Looking forward to see you again soon.